Hey, what's up everybody? How's it going? How y'all doing? Welcome back to the channel. So, for today's show, we're talking about Top Gun. I figured since Top Gun Maverick is coming out, it wouldn't be a bad idea to dust off the original and give it a watch, you know? Plus, on top of that, I'm not even sure if I've actually seen the entire movie. I know I've definitely seen bits and pieces of this movie, like just, you know, throughout childhood, but I don't think I've ever actually, as an adult, sat down and watched the entire thing. But just for fun, when I got done watching, I went to check out the Rotten Tomatoes score just out of sheer curiosity. And the audience and critic score is really not anywhere close to each other, which I was kind of surprised by because this movie is deemed to be a classic by a lot of people. And sure, the movie is a little bit cheesy and it has a lot of the same hallmarks of a blockbuster that's very of that era, but even still, it has a lot of likable characters, it has an interesting story, and it has like some really good action sequences, so it's like, I don't know what the deal is with that. But if all other things are equal, if somebody came to me and said this movie is incredibly dated, I don't really have a leg to stand on because that is 100% a fact. But if you're unfamiliar with the story of Top Gun, it's essentially about a character played by Tom Cruise, and he's essentially just kind of this cocky, arrogant fighter pilot in the Navy. And at one point, him and his partner get transferred to this very prestigious flight school. And the function of the school is basically to see who the best fighter pilot in the entire country is. So you see them taking classes, learning advanced battle tactics, and they do a bunch of simulated missions and a bunch of other shenanigans. And the movie just follows his character and all the trials and tribulations he goes through. And I would have to say, by far, probably the best scenes in the movie were all the action sequences. But oddly enough, they didn't start out that way. The first couple sequences that they had were actually not that great. Because it seemed to me in those first few sequences, and maybe I just wasn't paying that much attention, but I didn't feel like I knew exactly what was going on, like logistically. Whereas anytime they were in a battle sequence later on in the movie, they actually showed you what was happening as somebody was like calling out something that they were doing. Like if somebody said, oh, you got somebody on your tail, bank left, it actually showed the person like banking left and it saw another plane behind them. So I guess what I'm saying is they showed the continuity of the fight scenes way better later on in the movie. And I said this movie was horrendously dated, and it's true, it is. Some of the characters, when they're supposed to be sweating, they're not just sweating, they are sweating. Like anytime you saw a bead of sweat on somebody's face, apparently those beads of sweat learned how to mate like rabbits, and it was just everywhere. And also, if you were to listen to nothing else but the soundtrack, you would be able to tell exactly what decade this movie came from. This movie was so blatantly in the 80s that I didn't even grow up in the 80s and I knew what era it was from. But the flip side of that is you can't even deny how well some of the music is composed. Like, it's still good music in my opinion. And plus, for those of you that watch the TV show Archer, if it wasn't for this movie, there would be several inside long-running jokes that we wouldn't have. But of course, you're welcome to disagree with me because, you know, all art is subjective, but I'm just saying, Take My Breath Away still won the Academy Award for Best Song that year, so consider my case rested. And again, very blockbustery. Like essentially the movie just kind of turns into this kind of glorified pissing contest between Tom Cruise's character and Val Kilmer's character. Because they are both very douchey characters, especially to each other, but the thing about them is they actually both, at some point throughout the movie, or in fact multiple points, both of their characters do show elements of humility, so that kind of kept them from being just one-note boring characters. But I'd say for the most part, overall, the acting's pretty decent. And the guy that played Goose was a really good yin to Tom Cruise's yang. That dynamic worked very well. They had a lot of good chemistry. The whole romantic element could have been done a little bit better, but I mean, it was fine for what it was. I thought it felt a little bit forced, but it was good. I'm kind of curious though, there's a couple lines where they say, oh, Maverick is 2 points behind Iceman in the standings for Top Gun. And instead of explaining that, they just kind of like, they just say that and then they expect the audience to kind of know what that means. Like, I don't know what the hell that means. Like, I don't know how that point system works. Is it like, do you get 5 points if you win a mission? And I don't even know what winning a mission technically is, really. And also, for the last act of the movie, I really questioned the validity of the possibility of that actually happening. I'm not going to give away what it is, but considering the last thing that happens, I would have thought that the consequences would be much higher after what happens. Like, the movie really underplayed like what the stakes were in that part. And also the ending of the movie was super corny, but I mean, whatever. It fit with the rest of the movie. But anyway, guys, overall, this might not be the best or the most memorable movie in the world, but after all these years, it's still a good movie. So I think for a score overall out of 10, I'm going to give it a flat 7.0. This movie very clearly stood the test of time, even though the passage of time is very visible. But a lot of people still think it's a classic and it's still worth a watch. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Have you seen this movie lately? Do you have the same thoughts? Hop in the comments. Let me know what's up. Other than that, if you like this review, give me a like, subscribe, share, hit the bell, do all that other happy horse shit, and I will catch you guys later.